address something that I'm seeing floating around a lot right now, and that is this argument over kind of what race or what weight LSU is putting on the race factor in this coaching search. And here's my deal, is that obviously you never want to hire someone or fire someone or make any decision like that based off of somebody's race, right? Black, white, Asian, whatever, right? I think the unfortunate truth of the time we live in and where we live is that for many, many, many years, unfortunately, that has been the case a lot of times. And maybe not solely the case, but look, I think that if you look around a lot of business, like a lot of places, like people argue against things like affirmative action because they view it as racist and putting their scale on the weight for one race over another, et cetera, et cetera. But you also have to understand that affirmative action is something that is a kind of response to how things have naturally played out in a lot of industries. If you look at something like college football coaching, despite the vast majority of players being black, the vast majority of coaches are white. Is this really because these guys are just 100% the better coaches 24/7? Or is it because even if it's not nefarious, even if it's not anything where you're setting out to do this, sometimes, look, it is completely natural to choose your friends, to choose people you know, to kind of put your thumb on the scale, even if you're not doing it purposefully, for things that you are comfortable with. And so it can naturally lead you down this road where through the years there have probably been many excellent candidates who were black for head coaching jobs throughout the country that could have been better than who was eventually hired, but they were never given that opportunity. So obviously, you do not hire someone based off of race, but at the same time, this needs to be as open and as wide-ranging of a search as possible. And so it has to include all the names, anybody who you think could be a fit at LSU, and then you land where you land. And if you do land on a Mel Tucker, a James Franklin, or a minority head coach, me personally, I do think that would be, I think that would be really, I think it'd be kind of landmark for LSU. Remember, I mean, Durante Jones, your first black coordinator, except for what, I think somebody who was an OC for 1 year back in the day. So I think that would be great, and we would absolutely celebrate it. And I think it would be kind of like a callback to maybe many of those guys before in years past who could have or should have gotten these jobs, or at least the opportunity to get these jobs, but were not allowed to because of wherever culture was at that time. So again, you don't base this decision off of race, but also you have to vet all candidates, and you have to make sure that you are truly vetting all candidates, and you are not just doing it to check some sort of like Rooney Rule type box, which unfortunately we've seen now, like with Bruce Allen's emails in the NFL. He was not giving those guys serious chances at that Washington football team job. He was literally making jokes about just doing it to fulfill the Rooney Rule. So LSU, that's my main thing. You just have to approach this sincerely and genuinely and vet everybody and give everybody an equal opportunity to get this job.
Yeah, don't. So for me, and there's a couple of things, and I know we'll talk about it. We got 2 hours left in the show, like things that you're looking for and what you want in the next head coach and all those type of things. My deal is don't maybe hone in on one guy and put all your chips in the middle of the table for this one guy. And then if it doesn't work out, you start to spiral a little bit. And you're like, man, I want choice 2 and 3, but 2 and 3, now they're already talking to this team. And man, we got to go 4, 5, and 6. Like, spread the net out, like you said, and have a checklist of everything that you want for this program to be. And that person has done that. And we'll get into it, but I don't even need like to have a national championship winning coach. Like, I don't need that. Like, that's not a requirement. Is it nice to have? Yes.
Yeah, because you're probably not going to get that.
No, there's only a couple of those guys. Follow the checklist. Know what you want your program to look like, who you want to be the leader of that program during that process, and have them have that in their past history to show that they have done it elsewhere. And all that they needed was the backing and the resources and everything that comes with the LSU job to maybe go to even another level. I'm with you. Like, the best candidate should get the job, and they should aim as high as physically possible.
Yeah, like, so I guess how I would sum it up, the best candidate should get the job. In the past, I think there have been best candidates that have been left off of the reason or left off of the list for reasons like race and other things. And so all that just needs to be out the window, right? And everybody needs to be getting an equal look here. So a lot of people are asking me about Mel Tucker, right? Because I compared Mel Tucker and Jay Johnson in the YouTube chat. Also, how funny is it that I randomly fell into that Mel Tucker hole a couple of nights ago? That had nothing to do with, I had never thought about him as a candidate for the LSU job before this. And then I just saw a really cool Athletic article about how he remade Michigan State. I don't want to go over it again, but if you missed it, basically, remember, Michigan State, D'Antonio had kind of run them into the ground. He quit after signing day in February.
Yeah.
Tucker gets hired after 1 year in Colorado, which that's key. Is that they still thought because one of the core points in all of this is just simply how highly people think of Tucker within the business. But he gets hired away after 1 year in Colorado. He takes over in March. COVID breaks out 2 weeks later. So you get no offseason with this new team. You don't know these players at all. They go 2-5 last year. They lose every game by 26 points. They're horrible. And then he takes his very forward-thinking and deadly effective approach to the transfer portal, where they treat it like NFL free agency, the entire personnel department created just for transfer portal uses. They force 26 guys out, essentially, to remake the culture of the team. They bring 15 in, including the Heisman candidate, Kenneth Walker, their starting left tackle, the court. I mean, the list goes on. And it was just masterful navigation of a weird new time in college football that has Michigan State going from being a horrible bottom of the Big Ten to now at the top. Now, granted, Michigan State's about to be tested, right? So if Mel Tucker really wants this job, there are big wins to be had, then maybe y'all would be like, okay, now I kind of see it. So I get it if you're not there before the wins. I completely understand. The reason why I compare him and Jay Johnson is because both would not be number one on the list, right? Jay Johnson definitely was not. I mean, what was Johnson? 5, 6? I don't know what they ended up. I don't care what they would tell you. Yeah. They worked their way to Jay Johnson. I think you would work your way to Mel Tucker in a similar fashion. The reason why I compare them, Jake, is because they're both, like I said, very highly thought of. When you look at head coaching candidates, there is a reason why Michigan State, a school that loves football, and if you've never seen Michigan State's facilities, understand they invest a ton of money in football in East Lansing. It means everything to them. There's a reason why they went ahead and dealt with the headache of getting Mel Tucker out of Colorado after just 1 year and everything that was required of that. And that's because he is very, again, highly thought of. And in terms of resume, while he is a relatively young or new college head coach,
only,
so he doesn't
only 26 games as a college head
That's what I'm saying. So he does not have the resume. You would be hiring him from a potential standpoint just because you believe in his potential and him being the best option. But in terms of X's and O's resume, that is pretty stellar, right? He's been an NFL defensive coordinator. He was obviously a DB coach at Saban, Alabama. He became Georgia's defensive coordinator and was dominant there. And then, like I said, he's done a good job in a limited window in making Michigan State good overnight. And granted, that article that I read, it's filled with a lot of very, what's the word I'm looking for? Flattering, very flattering talk about Tucker and just kind of what a kind of X Factor type of personality he has and how he was, for all the scouts and personnel, that everybody's kind of giving him credit as being that heart and soul guy that has affected that change. So again, I don't want to make it seem like he is the top candidate, but here's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, because I do think he's a little bit different. Like Jay Johnson, Jay had been to Omaha, and Jay had done some things in his head coaching career that were far superior to what Mel's done so far.
Yeah. So don't compare the head coaching resumes. At the same time, though, it is a bit apples to oranges. There is no Omaha for football. I mean, I guess you could call it New Year's 6.
Peyton Manning used to yell at him.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess you could call New Year's 6 Omaha, right? So, if Mel Tucker makes New Year's 6 this year, then that's him going to Omaha.
His first Omaha.
Okay. So we can agree with that. So you're right. The resume standpoint is bad, but do you agree with that they are both guys where they feel like risers, right? They feel like very high potential guys. And in terms of even kind of development, right? When you look at what they did or what they're doing right now at Michigan State. And again, the other point of that is that they were not the top targets. Or Jay Johnson was not. I don't know where Mel Tucker sits on this list currently.
Yeah.
But whose resume would make you happy?
Right. And a lot of people are saying, last time you got a Michigan State coach that was a little unproven, but Nick Saban did coach 59 games at Michigan State before he got the LSU job. And, of course, he was the Toledo head coach and went 9-2 there before as a head coach. And so he had 70 games as a head coach before he got to LSU. But back to your question about resume, this is a very intriguing question because normally whenever this comes up, like last time LSU job was open, there was two candidates. It was Tom Herman, there was Jimbo Fisher that everyone was on. Like that was the two. Like those were the two names. Right now, and I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, I think everybody has. It's not just me. Like, okay, well, who's the candidate? Who's like the top name? Because typically, like you feel like there is a top name, but even when the USC job came open, there wasn't like this consensus, like just, yep, that's the guy that everybody should go after. This is, the wonder coach that everybody's got to go and get. It doesn't feel like that this time. So that's why I think this process is so important, and the fact that you make the move now to create that time where you make sure that you have the right guy. You allow some things to play out. You allow some things to develop and see, because with Coach O coaching the rest of the year, that's big. And the fact that your program has more stability than it would if you had an interim coach. But like now you've got to make sure that you're vetting everyone the right way because you gave yourself this time. Don't waste this time.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Find the right candidate. Throw a wide net. Don't hone in on one person and one person alone. I think that's the wrong way to do it. And if Mel Tucker's the guy at the end of the day, he's the guy.
Well, that's my overall point too, Jake, is that no resume is going to satisfy LSU fans. I mean, what has Lane Kiffin done? But I'm not saying that because I wouldn't be okay with a Kiffin hire. I would understand it. It would be like the Cardinals hiring Cliff Kingsbury. That seems to have worked out very well for them, right? He got fired at Texas Tech. He didn't have a resume. What was he? He was thought of as an elite X's and O's guy, an elite offensive mind. I think Mel Tucker's thought of in the same way, but on the defensive side of the ball. But the point is, like, Lane Kiffin's resume is not deserving of the LSU job. But many people would be celebrating if you snagged him from Ole Miss. Jimbo is the only one that maybe would be because he got the natty. But, I mean, do you want to pay Jimbo $10 million a year? Is he deserving of $10 million a year? I mean, granted, you get the big win over Alabama at A&M, but on the whole, this has not been a good year for A&M. It's been a year of missed expectations. So, I mean, and guess what? In the sport of football, there just aren't national championship winning coaches. So you're going to give someone, in the vast majority of LSU fans' minds, someone is going to get a job that they arguably do not deserve. So that's why this all comes down to Woodward and the administration betting on their ability to evaluate talent, because they're going to have to take a shot on someone and give somebody that opportunity, and that person's going to have to try to make them right.
What coaches currently have national championships?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like 5.
Nick, Jimbo, Dabo, Ed,
and Mac Brown.
And Mac Brown, yes, thank you. Which is like a weird one, right? Because obviously Mac Brown's not a candidate.
Had a little bit of sabbatical in between those, his TV career.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, even a resume like James Franklin, which is probably the best resume of anyone who hasn't won a natty, that is being kind of floated around in these talks for who should get the job. So he would win probably that resume race. But even there, there's flaws on it, right? Consistently losing in some of the bigger games to rivals. Does Penn State have a Big Ten championship under Franklin?
Didn't they win it that one year, not make the playoff, or was that just their division that they won?
Maybe you'd have to. Maybe we could do a little fact check there, because I don't want to misspeak, but I feel like they don't. But even still, he's going to have the best resume. But again, it's not going to be a resume necessarily that is deserving of the school that's played for 4 natties, won 3 top 5 jobs in the country, all of that sort of stuff.
Big Ten championship in 2016.
Okay. So that's good. That's really good. Like, I think that's a big feather in his cap.
Yeah, lost in the Rose Bowl, finished number 7 in the country, 11-3 was the final record there, 8-1 within the Big Ten.
It is similarly,
sound like me over there.
Similarly tough to win a Big Ten championship in the age of Ohio State dominance as it is an SEC championship in the age of Alabama dominance.
I would say a feather kind of in the cap of James Franklin. You started last year 0-5.
Yes.
And you rolled off 4 straight victories.
Yeah.
And so this was hey, all right, there's some things on the line. Let's see what you do. And they're 5-1. Right? You're able to have that that bad season. Let's call it like it is. I mean, and we know what last year was, but still, you started 0-5. You roll off 4 victories in a row. Now you're 5-1 right now. So you didn't allow that to last for 2 seasons. He's 65-29 at Penn State, and we're talking about playing in a Rose, a Fiesta, and a Cotton Bowl.
Okay, there's Omaha trips.
Those are Omaha trips.
Right, there you go. There's 3 Omaha trips. He won at Vanderbilt.
He was 24-15 at Vanderbilt. That's more impressive than the Omaha.
Yeah, so definitely, like Franklin feels like the best resume right now. I mean, maybe outside of a Jimbo, but you're not going to go Jimbo. So it's like, this is where it's going to be so hard for us to judge this stuff outside looking in, is we're not going to be in those interviews, in those meetings. We're not going to see the pitches from these guys about what they could potentially bring to LSU. And at the end of the day, this is Scott Woodward really having to bet on himself. And it's kind of wild, because I've always thought that, like, you know, ideally, if you look at Woodward's history, like the Mulkey hire, he wants to hire someone whose resume is untouchable. And guess what? If it goes wrong, you can't come at me. Yeah. Like the resume, I mean, what do you want me to do? Like, it was perfect. In baseball, you couldn't get that. So you take, you kind of take a bet on Jay Johnson, and it feels very good early on. Very good early on. Baseball still got to be played, obviously. Who are they going to take a bet on in football? And make no mistake, Woodward knows. I mean, that's the legacy stuff, right? That's like, you're the new AD. This is your guy trying to transition out of this national championship in an unprecedented kind of weird 2-year downfall, trying to right the ship. Like, everything in Scott Woodward's career comes down to this moment. Everything has been leading up to this moment where he is now the AD at his alma mater. He has, I think, very shrewdly handled what could have been a disastrous, potentially explosive coaching change situation, and now he has to go find his guy, and hiring is one of the hardest things you can do on this earth, right? Talent evaluation, you see it all the time. Top prospects go bust or boom, top draft picks go bust or boom, coaches go bust or boom. And so it's an unenviable position to be in, but I'm sure if you were to talk to Scott, there's nowhere else he'd rather be. Like, this is what he does, what he's been doing his entire life.
A lot of people asking
People
about...
say Joe Brady. Like, how is Joe Brady more qualified than like a Mel Tucker? Stop chasing the Joe Brady ghost, damn it.
And Joe will tell you Joe ain't trying to recruit. I mean, he'll tell you loudly. I think he said it at the coaches' convention this year. Like, he is not trying to recruit. But
hell no.
Luke Fickell, a lot of people asking about him, and I never want to speak in absolutes here. That one feels like it is a reach because of where he's from and what he wants to do. And he's all, the rumor's always been Ohio State or Notre Dame or staying at Cincinnati. And they're about to be in the Big 12. So he's at Cincinnati. They're giving him whatever he wants. They're about to be in the Big 12. And so he potentially could be one of those guys that just stays at Cincinnati. That one feels like it would be very hard to get him from a region that he feels very comfortable with and seems to enjoy. So I don't even know if that would be an option.
So it's interesting. A lot of people saying Billy Napier. The thing about Billy Napier to me, while he has done an objectively great job in a very tough spot where he took over UL, if you're going to go there, like, why is he more attractive than Chadwell? Right?
Yeah,
if you're
Jamie
gonna,
Chadwell, exactly.
Like, why would you not
Coastal.
go to, like, the guy who's actually taken a school that just started football, it's supposed to be horrible, and made them the Sun Belt power? Like, UL's good, Coastal Carolina's better. I mean, you're not putting, like, that much weight on relationship. Like just the fact that Billy Napier has experience in Louisiana does not overcome, I think, what Chadwell has accomplished. So that's my kind of logical break with Napier, is simply, if you're going there, why would you not go Chadwell, who has done just really blown away every level of expectation on level. That would be if you're getting pretty far down the list, though, I think, especially at that point. But again, so the overall point, I don't think there's going to be a resume that's going to make you very happy. This is something that's going to be borne out over time, and it'll be how that person handles, like again, so because it's the other hire Woodward made, like, look at how Jay Johnson carried himself those first few days, right? Yeah. He immediately inspired confidence in the press conference. He made the splash recruiting news, getting Jacob Berry to come in. He's up there 24/7 working. Everybody you talk to around there, he's done a really good job of politically navigating the situation where everybody who matters, like former players, other baseball guys, they're all like, I love him, right? Like, he's won all these guys over, right? So whoever the next guy is can help himself out in that regard a lot, because, again, I think there's going to be detractors no matter what, given that there's just no home run number one with a bullet coaching Wunderkind or old champion that you're gonna go after.
It also, I mean, something that is obvious, like if James Franklin is your guy, well, Penn State cares a lot about football as well, and so then you start getting into potentially a bidding war, and I mean, this thing is going to have many different branches to it, as we all know, and that's why you decide again to do it at this time, right, wrong, or indifferent, because you want to have the time to be able to have those things pop up and see if you can handle them.
That, yeah, somebody gonna get paid.
Oh,
with LSU and USC available, and the fact that you are going to target coaches that are already beloved by their school, somebody getting paid, man. So shout out to
from that area, and if that, I'm just saying, like if that's like Luke Fickell, like we're talking about, like he loves that region, like he is an Ohio State guy, So
shout out to all the agents out there. Good for you.
Yeah, great for you, actually.
I say all the agents. It's probably all just Jimmy Sexton. Like he's just everybody's agent
for the most part.
And he just makes millions and millions of dollars. All right. Yeah, and also I've seen this thought floated around by a few different people, and I do think this is true. There's also an element of be very careful to believe anything at this point because it is agent seeding rumors time.
Yeah, Peter Burns had a tweet. I had to look it up exactly what he said, but it was kind of in the same vein.
Yeah, he was one of the people that I saw talking about this.
Yeah.
He just said, look, like anything you hear here early on is being floated by a lot of agents trying to get, use LSU as leverage to get extensions, maybe price raise, all that and more. You know what? You know what'd be hilarious if A&M ends up paying Jimbo like $12 million a year. Like just keep bumping them up. They go like 4-4 at the SEC and they pay him $12 million. That'd be great.